This is our NIBRS webinar. It's kind of like an introduction to NIBRS, so we'll be going over what it looks like for your department to report NIBRS through ARMS. We also have some more specific or state-specific NIBRS webinars that go a little bit more in depth. So after this webinar, if you're interested in seeing that, just reach out to us. We'd be happy to send it to you. Just an overview of what this will look like. So right now, everyone is muted, just to be able to cut down on some crosstalk throughout the webinar. At the end, we'll have a question and answer section. I'll go a little bit more in depth about how to ask questions at the end. But if you hover your mouse around the screen on the bottom bar, the participants button should pop up, and then you should be able to see a raise hand button. You can also type a question in the chat. They are going directly to the hosts. We have a few hosts on here, so Devin Fowler is one of them, and Jason Worth is the other, to be able to help us out with some questions. We'll get as many questions answered at the end as possible, but we will go ahead and jump into our webinar here. All right, so this is ARMS Mobile. If you aren't currently using ARMS Mobile, this is part of the NIBRS project. So we throw in ARMS Mobile for free whenever you purchase NIBRS. So whenever your officers are filling out case reports, ARMS Mobile is a browser-based system to where they can fill these case reports out from the car or a laptop or a cell phone. You can also approve case reports from home, so on and so forth. Just an easy way for you to be able to kind of take ARMS on the go. So NIBRS reporting is a big part of policing at the moment. So UCR reporting is turning into NIBRS reporting by January 2021. At the moment, there are no changes on that date due to coronavirus, but there could be some in the future, but we are not sure about that. So in ARMS Mobile, your officers would fill out a case report just the way that they normally do. So right now we have a criminal case report going on, and it is active, and it is at the library annex. This is kind of important to point out about NIBRS reporting, because everything that we're going to be looking throughout the case report before we jump into the NIBRS review is all going to be pulled into the NIBRS review for you. So your officers won't have to change their reporting at all. This is all up to your NIBRS coordinator, who goes through and basically does the NIBRS review for your department. So right now we have a criminal case report at library annex, and we also have our occurred from and occurred to dates. With our incidents, right now we have a simple assault and a petty larceny. Both of these incidents have been added in. One thing about the incidents is we have our NIBRS code directly related to a specific incident. So you set this up in the back end of ARMS. If you want to learn more about that, we can always send you some more webinars that we've done that go a little bit more in depth about how this looks. But the simple answer is we help you set this up in the back end of ARMS whenever you start reporting NIBRS. So right now we have a simple assault going on, which is in NIBRS 13B. If we wanted to, we could jump back into our incidents and see the exact same information with our petty larceny. One thing to point about this is that all these fields are grayed out. This means that your officers cannot go in there and change what the NIBRS code is because it's already been set up beforehand. This kind of helps your officers not have to know the complexities of NIBRS because there is so much that goes into it. We do all that in the back end just to make it as easy as possible on you and your department. Once we jump back into our case report here, we'll jump into names. So in our names field, we have two names. So we have Kimberly Bryant and then Jackson Jameson. Kimberly is our victim and Jackson is our arrestee. And we also have an arrest added into ARMS Mobile here. All this is important because it all gets pulled into our NIBRS review. Same way with properties or anything else that is required for these specific incidents. So at the moment, all of our required fields are filled out. We don't have any more red dots on the side of the screen. So we are good. We can go ahead and submit this case report for approval. That way your NIBRS coordinator can always come back and run the NIBRS review. Once we jump into this NIBRS review, you'll see that everything has already been added from the case report automatically into our NIBRS review. Let me get this pulled up real quick. So we'll start a new review. We'll pull up another screen, and you can see that everything has already been pulled in for me. So my incident date time has already been pulled in, my incident number, my offenses, my property, victim, offender, and arrest information has already all been pulled into my NIBRS review. That way you don't have to go through and backfill information multiple times. This just helps you and your NIBRS coordinator. It makes the job a lot easier for them without having to go in and add all the same information over and over again. So with our NIBRS review, we kind of treat it like a case report where we had our required fields. NIBRS is going to help you walk through what the NIBRS case report is going to look like. So right now we are on our administrative page. We hit save. You can see that we've got an error that pops up for us. This is just letting us know where we need to put in some more information about this specific case report. So you can see cargo theft must be yes or no if any UCR offense code is so on and so forth. So right now we didn't have any cargo theft involved, so we hit no. We jump into our offense here. We save our changes. We're good to move forward. From here, we have our validate all button and validate segment button. Validate all basically just validates all of these fields that we're about to go through. But for right now, we'll go ahead and jump into validate segment. So if we hit validate segment, you can see that I had an error pop up. So if I go back up, I hit no, I hit save. We're good. Jump back into here. And we are good. No errors found from my offense section. We can jump into our property section now since there's no errors there. We jump into our property section, hit validate segment. You're going to see that I have another error pop up. Again, just helping your NIBRS coordinator go through and figure out what needs to go on and where certain information is needed. So we need to add some more information to this piece of property so we can go ahead and click on it. I know that from my error, it told me that I needed a value of property based on this petty larceny that I have added in as an incident. So I need to add in a value of property. If I add in a value below 500, which is set in my system, I hit save and close. You can see that we have a success and our segment has 100% been validated and we are good to move forward. Same thing goes for the victim. So we'll keep on doing this throughout the rest of the NIBRS review. We jump into our victim, we hit validate segment. You can see that I have another error. If I jump into this victim here, I know from my error, it told me that I needed to connect the victim to the UCR offense codes. So I can hit my drop-down menu here, connect my victim to these codes. If I hit save and close, I have another error. So that means that I need to add some more information about this victim for NIBRS reporting. So right now, the type of injury must be entered. So this is where I can go down to my type of injury here, choose a type of injury, so apparent minor injury. We go up and hit save and close, and we're good to move forward. And now we can jump into our offender here. So with our offender, we go hit validate segment, no errors found, we're good to move forward. So victim-offender relationship. So I go and hit validate segment, and I need to add some information about my victor-offender relationship. So from here, I can go hit add. I can also, from here, I can link the relationships to the victim with the offender. So if I jump down, and we can choose all of these fields, but right now we'll say that victim was a stranger. Hit save and close, and we're good to move forward. From our arrestee, we can go hit validate segment again, and we need to enter a resident status. So from here, we can jump into here, add in our resident status. We'll say that he is a resident, hit save and close, and we're good to move forward. One thing that I do want to point out about our NIBRS review is in our property also. So right now we had a stolen piece of property. Let's say this property was recovered. Instead of going into the case report to add that piece of property as recovered, we can add it from here also. So if we go and hit add, we can jump into here and say recovered, add property description. It was listed as other, and we had a value of property as 250. And then we can also add in the date recovered. So let's say we recovered it today, hit save and close, and we're good. We could have done all that by just hitting the validate all button also. So if we hit validate all now, we have no errors found. That means that our NIBRS review for this specific case report is 100% completed. We are good to move forward to the next one. One thing that I do want to point out is that in Report Center, we have a great way for you to just be able to run a report and see which incidents still need to have a NIBRS review. What we suggest is typically every Friday, the NIBRS coordinator will go in here and fill out their NIBRS review for the case reports that are needed for it. So from here in our Report Center, we can jump into our NIBRS code comparison. This is a built-in report. It is a canned report, so you have this already. We can choose our date from and date to. I will jump this back just a little bit so we have a little bit of information here. But we hit apply, and it's going to pull back all of my case reports and all of my incident numbers that are NIBRS reportable. If I scroll down, you can see that I have some fields filled out and some that aren't filled out. This means that the ones that aren't filled out still need to have a NIBRS review. So basically what we just went over, these case reports specifically still need to have that review done. That way you can submit everything to the state or to the federal government directly. Once we've gone through our NIBRS review, for all of our case reports that are needed for that month, we can run an export from ARMS, pull out a text file. It's a bunch of numbers that we can't read, but NIBRS can. From there, depending on your state, some states have a drag and drop website where you can drag and drop that text file into a certain field on their website to be able to submit it. And some states have emails where you can email your NIBRS report directly to a specific email or department for your NIBRS reporting. NIBRS reporting kind of changes based on state to state. So we have multiple states that we are already reporting NIBRS in, and we are happy to report NIBRS in any state. So if you are in Massachusetts, we've already done our NIBRS through Massachusetts. We have multiple departments in Massachusetts reporting NIBRS. So that's not a problem to get you up and running with NIBRS reporting. That goes with every state. So we can get you reporting NIBRS, no problem, whenever you would like. You just let us know. That is about it for our NIBRS webinar. It was a quick one, just a quick overview of what it would look like for your department to report NIBRS through ARMS. So now I'll jump back into my PowerPoint here, and we'll jump into our Q&A session. So kind of what our Q&A session looks like is, we talked about this earlier, but you can hover your mouse on the screen and you'll see a participants button pop up down at the bottom. If you click on that, either a sidebar will pop up or maybe a pop-up box in the middle of your screen, and you have a raise hand button on it. If you click that raise hand button, it will raise a hand in your participants section. We can unmute you, you can ask your question, and then we can mute you again. That way other people can go on and ask theirs. You can also ask any questions in the chat, and we can get those answered as well. It looks like we had one pop up in the chat. So Patrick asked, in your example, you have a petty theft with a NIBRS of 23H, meaning it happened outside. What if the same petty theft happened from inside a building of a NIBRS needing 23D? Some crimes may have multiple NIBRS possibilities. Devin or Jason, do you want to help out with that question just a little bit?
Yeah. So this is Devin. For a 23D, it would be pretty much the same process. For the most part, they split it up in NIBRS into 3 different groups. There's crime against persons, crime against property, and crime against society, where crime against person would be a simple assault or something like that. Crime against property would be this 23H, 23D, any larcenies or robberies or anything like that. and then a crime against society would be like a drug charge. So for 23D, it would be the same process that Zach went through, putting it through the NIBRS review and having to add stolen or recovered property if the crime was completed. The only thing that would really be different would be your crime code that you put into the initial case. So he put in that petty larceny as a 23H, and that's just a larceny all other. And then they have other ones like a 23D that you would have to relate to your crime code, so that you can make sure that whenever your officer puts in that theft from a building, it relates to NIBRS as a 23D.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Any other questions that we can get answered?
And real quick, while people are, if people are raising their hands or typing in the chat, I did want to bring up, since this is kind of an intro to NIBRS, I'm sure that a lot of people, one of their first questions would be, what does the certification process look like? So once you start the project, the NIBRS certification project, you would have to go through everything that Zach talked about, going through the crime code setup, and then relating that to what your officers put in, and being able to know how to put in the NIBRS reviews for those cases. That's the big thing. And then we would take that, you would do a month at a time of NIBRS reviews, and we would export a file from that, a file that just contains all of the information in code that we send to the state or submit to a website. Now, for every state, it's a little bit different. So if you do have questions about your state specifically, please reach out and let us know, because depending on the state, some states only have to submit 1 month of NIBRS data, and that's quick and easy. But then some states have to submit 3 months or 6 months, and they don't have to be 6 future months. They just have to be 6 consecutive months. So right now, if we were to start a NIBRS project today, then we would probably just go with January through June. And you would have to fill out NIBRS reviews that match what you reported to UCR. And then we would send those to the state. They would check to make sure they match. And then after they check all 6 months, you'd be good to go. All right, and I'll pass it back over to you, Zach.
No, thank you, Devin. All right, any other questions that we can get answered about NIBRS reporting? Just a reminder, you can either raise your hand or type it in the chat. We're happy to get as many questions answered as anyone might have. Looks like we have one in the chat. Lieutenant Serena, we are actually working with Louisiana NIBRS currently. Okay, I think that's about all the questions. If we have one pop up, we're still happy to answer one. But like I said earlier, we have multiple state-specific, very in-depth NIBRS webinars that we've done in the past. And if you would like a little bit more in-depth overview of what it looks like to set up your crime codes, what it looks like to pull the file out from ARMS, and what it looks like to do a couple of different incidents through the NIBRS review, we'd be happy to send that to you. If you have any questions, you can reach us a few different ways. So you can always go to our website, arms.com. We have a text function or a chat function down on the bottom right of our screen where you can type in and talk to one of our support guys directly. You can also call 800-776-6783, where we can help get any questions answered. And then you can also shoot an email to sales@arms.com or support@arms.com. And if you would like to see any state-specific NIBRS webinars, just shoot us an email or contact us in any of these different ways, and we'd be happy to send that to you. Lieutenant Serena, I got your chat, so I'll make sure to send you something directly. If there's no other questions, I think that's about it. Thank you all for joining it, and I hope to see you at our next webinars.
Thanks, guys.